Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about the rumor that the Browns could be playing in Brazil to open up the 2024 season against the Eagles. And then we got an update on Mike Evans in free agency and whether or not the Browns will be pursuing the star wide receiver. And finally, some injury news on Deshaun Watson. So all that coming up on today's show. But I want to know, for the Brazil topic, do you want the Browns to play Week 1 Friday night in Brazil? Let me know down below in the comment section with a simple Y for yes or an N for no to start today's show. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, opening up today's President's Day show by talking about the possibility of Cleveland starting the season down in Brazil against the Philadelphia Eagles, who we learned a few weeks ago have been assigned as a designated home team in Brazil, and we just don't know who they are playing. But Peter King from NBC Sports wrote an article with a couple of predictions and rumors and nuggets and things that he is hearing, and one of them was the following. Feeling good about Cleveland, Philadelphia in Brazil on the evening of Friday, September 6th. Now, before we get too in-depth on this, let's at least look at the Eagles' home opponents to try and figure out who they might be playing in Week 1 in Brazil. So I don't think we're going to see a divisional showdown, but it's not impossible. But we could kind of rule out Dallas, New York, and Washington since we never see division games be played over in London or anywhere else in Europe. So that leaves the Browns, Falcons, Panthers, Jags, Packers, Steelers. So we have 6 teams remaining. However, Carolina and Jacksonville are already playing the international game. So let's toss them out because they're not going to have 2 international games, which means it is the Browns, Falcons, Packers, and Steelers. So essentially, maybe a 25% chance that the Browns play in Brazil against the Eagles. Now, I'm not sure where Peter King is hearing or why he believes it is going to be Cleveland in Brazil, but my initial reaction to just the whole possibility is I've got mixed feelings. I've got some pros, I've got some cons. Let's run through my pros and cons for the possibility of the Browns playing in Brazil. Pro number 1. Extra rest before Week 2. If they were to play on Friday, surely their next game would be on Sunday or Monday, which means they would go into Week 2, whether they win or lose in Week 1, with having some extra rest. And that has been a huge benefit to teams in the past. If you look back the last 5 years of teams that played on that opening night on Thursday night, Week 1, the Lions lost the following week, but they won the first game, so they were 1-1. The Chiefs won the next week, so they were 1-1. The Bills won the next week, so they were 2-0. The Rams came off a loss and beat the Falcons with some extra rest. The Bucs came off a win against the Cowboys with a win. The Cowboys bounced back with a win. The Texans, however, did lose with Deshaun Watson after losing to Kansas City in Week 1 of 2020. And the 2019 Packers and Bears game saw both teams win the next week. So we've got 10 teams over the last 5 weeks, over the last 5 years that after playing on Thursday night, Week 1, of those 10, I see 8 went on to win in Week 2. So pretty good track record of if you get some rest after Week 1, whether or not you win or lose, we're looking at a floor of 1-1. So that's a big pro. Con, back-to-back road games potentially. This I'm not too excited about. Now, it's not true road games since the first one would be in Brazil, so you're not going into South Philly or anything like that for 2 straight weeks of on the road. But if you remember, the Browns, or I should say Cleveland Browns Stadium, that Friday before Week 2, Billy Joel and Rod Stewart on the September 13th are having a concert at Cleveland Browns Stadium, which would be 2 days before Sunday of Week 2. To me, it does not seem likely that they have a concert on Friday, which is going to impact the grass and just kind of create some chaos, if you will, and then have a game on Sunday. So I'm thinking the Browns are going to be on the road Week 2 no matter what. There is a chance they could be home on Monday Night Football in Week 2, give the crew Saturday and Sunday to get the field and everything back for an NFL game on Monday night, but that just seems a little bit unlikely. So I'm sensing a Browns on the road Week 2, which means if they played in Brazil Week 1, Now we're talking about 2 straight road games to open up the year. That's definitely not easy. And it means some extra home games in December and January, which doesn't sound bad on paper, but remember, that's when it's at its coldest and windiest near the lake, and that's not great conditions for Deshaun Watson and this offense. So that's a big con in my eyes. Second pro, you get to avoid playing Philly in Philly. That is not a fun place to go, right? They boo Santa, they throw snowballs and batteries at Santa Claus. That is not a very welcoming environment to play. Under Nick Sirianni, the Philadelphia Eagles are 16-9 at home. So it's a little bit of, well, of course, when you're a good team, you're going to have a good record at home, but also you're a good team because you have a good record at home where the Eagles have defended their crib. So this is not an easy place to go into and play, so getting the potential chance of avoiding playing in Philadelphia and catching the Eagles in Brazil where no team has a home field advantage, that's definitely a pro to factor in. Con number 2, you have to play in Brazil, right? Just to be finished wrapping up avoiding playing Philly in Philly, I think it's worth mentioning, you have to play in Brazil. That's not an easy thing to do, right? Anytime a team goes and plays abroad, most commonly in London, but now we have Germany in the mix as well, and next year it's going to be Spain. There is a lot that goes into it. It is not simply, hey, we're going to get flights on Thursday and we're going to be out of here on Friday. No, there is a long process for teams preparing to go and play abroad. They get all their food shipped on a boat and all their equipment months before the game. It is a huge project that teams undertake, and teams tend to have different approaches for the best way to go about it. Now, it would be different since it is week 1 because traditionally you're playing in London in week 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, whatever, and that involves playing the week prior. But in this case, the Browns don't have a game the week prior, so they could go to Brazil anytime they want. Plus, there is no real, well, there's a slight, actually, I'm not sure if there is a body clock change. I don't think Sao Paulo, I think it's in Eastern time. Maybe it's 1 hour ahead. But the point I'm making here is it's not apples to apples like playing in London, since those games are always in the middle of the season and you got to stop your routine. This is the beginning of the year. But I do think it's worth mentioning that this is not something the Browns did very well last year in terms of traveling and playing their best away from Cleveland. And now you magnify that by going all the way to the Southern Hemisphere. That could pose some issues for the Browns. Third pro, though, you get a later bye week. So this is not a concrete fact, but teams that play internationally tend to get some give and take, if you will, on when their bye week occurs. When teams play in London, they get to straight up pick when they want to have their bye week. But when you look back at all the teams that played on Thursday night to begin the season, you can see that none of them had a bye week before week 6. The Bears in 2019 had a week 6 bye, but other than that, I've seen a lot of week 7, week 9, and week 10. And if we go back to last season, one of the issues for the Browns in 2023 was that early bye, which at the time was awesome since they suffered all those injuries. But looking back at it, it meant that they were pretty drained when they got towards the end of the season by having such an early week 5 bye. Personally, I think we're going to see the Packers and Eagles showdown in Sao Paulo, Brazil on that Friday, September 6th game, because I just don't think the Browns are going to go from being a team that has 2 primetime games in 2023 to primetime opener in Brazil week 1, 2024. And if they are on the road week 1 and most likely on the road week 2, unless it's Monday night, well, now we're talking back-to-back primetime games. I'm just looking at this through the lens of the NFL, which has never viewed Cleveland as an excellent market to host a bunch of primetime football games. I don't think they give the Browns week 1 and week 2 primetime games if the Browns are home on Monday Night Football week 2. That seems like you're pushing it. So for that reason, I think we'll see the Packers and the Eagles throw down in Sao Paulo. A quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is Game Time. Get started with Game Time today and start saving money when you purchase tickets to local sporting events, comedy shows, theater, musicals, whatever it might be. Get with Game Time for the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Whether it's a Cleveland Cavaliers game, a Guardians game coming up soon, or any other concert you want to go check out. Say, I don't know, like Rod Stewart on a Friday in Cleveland. Get with Game Time because they've got an awesome deal for the Dog Pound, which includes $20 off your first purchase when you use code BROWNSCHAT. Now, one of my favorite features about Game Time is the ability to get last-minute tickets even an hour after the event starts for the lowest price guaranteed. I personally like to plan in advance, but not all my friends are the same way. So if you are a day late, dollar short person, or if you run in that type of crowd every once in a while, get with Game Time today. That way you can save money on tickets with our promo code BROWNSCHAT while also getting last-minute deals. Now, I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video, but download the Game Time app and use code BROWNSCHAT for $20 off. Terms apply, but once again, that's Game Time with code BROWNSCHAT when you redeem that code for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now let's talk about Mike Evans because a new report came out regarding his contract situation in Tampa that has some relevancy to the Browns because they could definitely be interested in the Bucs star wide receiver. So Jordan Schultz from Bleacher Report, he tweeted this out. The Buccaneers had a soft deadline today to get an extension done with Pro Bowl wide receiver Mike Evans, but both sides remain far apart, sources say. Tampa Bay is set to take on $7.4 million in 2024 dead money by not getting a deal done today. Talks will continue, but my understanding is Evans is trending toward becoming a free agent, barring an unexpected change in discussions. Let's add some more color to this picture. So, Houston Chronicle came out with a report a few weeks ago that Mike Evans is expected / rumored / seeking to earn somewhere between $25 to $30 million on average in 2024. Now, Evans has been one of the best receivers. He's a future Hall of Fame receiver in my eyes. 10 straight seasons of over 1,000 receiving yards, which we've heard so many times. And what's kind of funny about that stat and that, awesome accolade is if you go look at Mike Evans' stats, there are so many years where he came very close to not getting to 1,000 yards, but cleared it by 7 or 10 yards sometimes. But he does turn 31 years old in August. Now, despite the age, he's coming off one of his most productive seasons. He averaged nearly 16 yards a pop, so if you're worried about him not having the big play factor anymore, 2023 would say otherwise. 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns in 2023. So Mike Evans can still produce. He can still put together some great numbers indeed. And we even have some other, let's say, relevant information to the conversation, which is Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk tweeted out, the 2024 salary cap is coming. Some are expecting it to be in the range of $242 million to $243 million per team. At least one source said in response to that, more. Now, Florio also added to that tweet saying it could be up to $250 million. Why do we care about this? Well, the NFL salary cap, barring a global pandemic, always goes up. We can see a big jump year after year, usually in the range of 8%-ish. But if it goes all the way up to $250 million, that is terrific news for Andrew Berry, because that was a part of the big gamble he made with Deshaun Watson's contract and restructuring other contracts, which is expect the salary cap to continue going up. And the bigger the salary cap, well, the less percent Deshaun Watson's cap hit is and other key players on this team, which means the Browns will be fewer dollars above the salary cap. And it means that they have more money to spend since the salary cap is getting bigger and bigger. And not every team is going to spend all their money because they've got broke owners. Meanwhile, Jimmy Haslam has so much cash. All he wants to do is win. And he has given the green light to Andrew Berry to spend all of his money. That's great news for the Browns. Hopefully that salary cap is at $250 million, if not more, because if that's the case, Deshaun Watson's cap hit, it's going to look like a very small piece of pie compared to a $250 million salary cap. And with that being said, I expect Cleveland to pursue Mike Evans. Now, they pursued a lot of star marquee free agents last year. Apparently, we're interested in Jesse Bates at safety, right? And Javon Hargrave on the defensive line. Ultimately, they got priced out a little bit. Both those guys got big contracts from Atlanta and San Francisco. But If the salary cap keeps going up, the Browns do not have an issue with an owner that does not want to spend money. So they've got the ability to write blank checks. They just have to work within the parameters of the NFL salary cap. But the bigger that cap is, well, teams like the Browns with rich owners that like spending money and aren't a bunch of broke bitches like in Cincinnati and Baltimore, they're going to get a lot of big-name players down to Cleveland. So get ready for NFL free agency, which is less than a month away. We're at 33,407 subscribers. I want to reach 33.5 by the time March 11th rolls around. So hit that sub button down below if you have not already. To wrap up the show, let's check out Deshaun Watson's latest injury news, as the Browns quarterback has been rehabbing at UCLA recently, and Mary Kay Cabot from Cleveland.com provided an update on number 4, saying Deshaun Watson is on track in his rehab schedule from shoulder surgery, maybe even a little ahead, and will begin throwing soon, a league source told Cleveland.com. This is great to hear, because Deshaun Watson needs to have a strong offseason. He's got a new offensive coordinator in Ken Dorsey coming in. There's a whole new install process going on here. New wrinkles being added. I mean, it's not a completely different playbook because Kevin Stefanski is still in charge, but there are still new additions being made, and you need Deshaun Watson to be a part of this offseason, not standing on the sidelines. You need to get Deshaun Watson going early in the offseason so that he can pick up where he left off, like the second half against the Ravens. Not start where he began the season, which was a very slow start. So fingers crossed Deshaun Watson will be ready to roll. When the Browns kick off their offseason activities, which is scheduled to begin on April 15th, and Watson at that point will be December, January, February, March, April. I mean, nearly 5 months removed from his surgery on his right shoulder on November 21st. Which, of course, caused him, amongst other shoulder injuries, to miss 11 games in 2023. Now, Watson recently shared on his Instagram story a picture of him working out at UCLA. He's been working out in their weight room. I don't really understand, the nuances and what goes into players working out at college facilities that they didn't attend college to, but I know that's where his medical team and where he got the surgery is based out of in Southern California, so I don't really care where he's working out, whether it's UCLA, Clemson, Houston, Cleveland, whatever it might be. But I know Elijah Moore has spoken to media members during Radio Row during the Super Bowl that he's going to plan on working out with Deshaun Watson soon. Remember, Watson took all of his receivers down to the Bahamas in 2022, Puerto Rico in 2023, the entire offense actually. So I'm sure he's got something planned for 2024. So let's show the guy some support right now during his recovery, and type 4 down below in the comment section. You know these athletes in the offseason are bored. They are name searching. They want to see what people are saying about them. So if Watson happens to stumble across this video, make sure he sees your comment down below showing him some support in his recovery. Let's end the show with Pick a Card mode, as we have producer Matthew McCullough, who was kind enough to come in on President's Day to film this video with me. Big Tex?
Yes, sir.
You want to give me a card?
Yeah, let me do Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades. Great order at Torchy's Tacos. If you know, you know. I'm going to go Presidents. We don't have a king, so I don't think it'd be appropriate to do a king. But let's do a jack. Yeah. Jack of diamonds. I should have said this, and I was thinking it. For Deshaun Watson, number 4. 4 of spades. 4 of spades. Doesn't count. I'm a coward. I didn't say it. That will do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in on your day off, and we will see you all later.